So we'll just wait a couple of moments. My technology actually worked. So far, so good. So actually ended up logging in a couple of moments early here. Right. My technology actually worked. So far, so good. So actually ended up logging in a couple of moments. All right, so we have a couple people on in here. I'll just give a couple more quick moments before we get started. All right, well, let's go ahead and chat about our topic of the week, which is talking about what to expect during your intern year. And if any of you who are listening live have already gone through your internship, maybe you're finishing up your internship, you did your internship a while ago like I did, feel free to drop in some comments to any of our people who are going into their internship this upcoming fall and kind of share anything else that you would like to add on into this conversation here. Now, I know internships are very different, district to district, state to state, what all of the different requirements are. I will have to tell you that when I was an intern, I actually had my own school. So my supervisor was the director of special education at the time, and oversaw a number of different interns, but I had my own school. There was no supervisor on site. It was definitely a sink or swim kind of situation there. And I swam. I made it through. So I thought I would just kind of give a couple of quick tips here, because I know sometimes as people are kind of finishing up, I know a lot of our people who are still students in the graduate program, they're kind of finishing up this semester right now and maybe are already thinking about and what to expect and how to prepare and all those different things. So wanted to give a couple of quick tips here. And wanted to just kind of start thinking about when you guys start that internship, what are some things to keep in mind? And so one of the things to keep in mind is really to give yourself some time to just get acclimated. Getting acclimated to the school, getting acclimated possibly to the district if you've not done your practicum there, just getting acclimated to the whole situation. Now, I will tell you, every time I supervised an intern or a practicum student, one of the first things that I always wanted them to do to help them get acclimated was to actually go hang out at the school. Like before we started talking about timelines and I need you to help me with this and blah, blah, blah. As we were working through some of those things, go spend some time in some classrooms, right? It's not something a lot of times we have time for as school psychologists because we've got 9 million things to do on our list. But if you've got that time at the beginning, go hang out in some classrooms. Go see what it's like in general education. Go hang out in special education. If your school has intervention programs, go hang out over there. If your school happens to have any specialized special education programs, so if you have any specific kind of programs on your site, one of the best ways to get to know the students, get to know the staff is just to hang out there. I'm not saying spend a whole day in one classroom, but spend a little bit of time anytime you're on that campus. Just kind of walk through and get people, to kind of get to know you a little bit. So I remember when I would have interns when I was at the elementary level, I would literally just map out their day. And I was like, I want you to go spend 20 minutes in this person's kindergarten classroom and this person's first grade classroom and this person's second grade classroom, so they could get a real developmental perspective of what was going on at that school site. And so if you're going to be at a middle school or a high school, You could be thinking about, how is math different from ninth graders through 12th graders? What does English class look like? How are those, expectations different? Again, if there are any intervention programs or different things like that, having that opportunity to really get a feel of what's going on and what's offered at your school, I think can be really, really helpful. Now, I know one of the things that I always really enjoyed when I had interns or practicum students was the questions they asked. Now, it takes time. It definitely takes time. Any of you who've been supervisors know it takes time anytime you have an intern or a practicum student because they've got all of these wonderful questions. But I love their questions because it made me think about my practice. A lot of times, the greatest questions start with why. Right? Like, why did you make that decision? Why did the team go that way? Why or how? Those kind of questions can be really helpful just in that thinking process because every single situation is always so unique. So one of the things that's always really helpful is to start understanding the thinking process. So as you are hanging out with your supervisor, as you are wandering around and checking in with speech and language pathologists and case managers and such, start just jotting down some questions that you have. Find the time that's appropriate to maybe spend some time asking those questions. And again, be thinking about what are some ways I can ask this question to really generalize this. Right? Yes, I could ask a question about this single student, but it's going to be rare that you work with a student that has those same exact difficulties, right? So how can you ask some questions to kind of expand out, right? That thinking process. And definitely start taking some notes. Be thinking about it, especially for those of you who are going to start your internship in the fall, be just thinking about like, what did my supervisor do in the first week of school? How did my supervisor, reach out to the other people on the site? Are there any new people on the site? How did my supervisor do that? How did my supervisor organize themselves? Because then you can put that in a notebook for yourself from a year from then to be able to look back and go, oh, that's how we organize ourselves at the beginning of the year, right? So really figure out what's going to be a really good way for you to take notes and organize those notes so that they're helpful for you in the future. Okay. Now, I loved my internship year. I learned so very much. Organization was a huge key for me to just keep track of all the different kids that I was providing counseling direct services to, as well as providing evaluations for and different things like that. I remember during my internship year, my school wasn't just on a year-round system, but they were on something. It was kind of a while ago, all right? Just to be upfront, I think I did my internship 20 plus years ago. So they were on something like a rainbow track that it wasn't like everyone was on and then everyone was off. Literally in every single classroom, 20% of the students were gone one week and another 20% returned. And it was just constantly like that. I needed to stay so organized so that I knew what color track my students were. Are you on the blue track or the red track? So that I knew when I could evaluate these students and when they were going to be available to me. So organization is definitely a good key. So for any of you guys who are going to be starting internship, really be thinking about over the next couple of months, reflecting on your own practices, reflecting on what's been working for you. You are already doing practicum hours and you are, going to school. And a lot of you have a job on top of that. So what's working for you and what's not working for you? And what are some ideas and thoughts that you can put into place and practice those skills perhaps over the summer? For those of you who, don't have to do any practicum or internship hours over the summer, really a good time to reflect and be thinking about what types of practices do I want to practice during the summer so that they might be a little bit more in your routine as you are heading into the fall. Now, if you go to this website, jennyponzurek.com, which is my website, but if you go to /live, you will see there that you can download my 4 tips for newer school psychs. So this is going to be helpful if you're going into your internship, if you are starting your first year as a school psychologist next year. I think it's nice to check out even if you just are finishing up your first year and you want to check in and see if there's any extra tips as you're going into your second year. Could also be helpful for those of you who are maybe going to switch districts or switch schools. It's nice to always be thinking about, how did I get to know everybody? What were some of those, first steps I had to do when it wasn't my site that I've been at for multiple years? So I remember when I first started as a school psychologist, I had 3 different schools. I was actually at one of those schools for my entire 13 years in that district. And the other schools just kind of swirled around. I'd have that one for a couple of years and then I'd switch over to there and then I had that one and then I only had 2 schools for a while. So really had to have those opportunities of how do I quickly build rapport? How do I check in with team members and different things like that? So if you need some extra tips, feel free to go over to the jennyponzurek.com/live where you can download the 4 tips for newer school psychs right now, absolutely free. And there's a couple of other freebies that are on that page too that you might be interested in taking a look at. Now, the last thing that I just want to share with you guys today is registration actually just opened for summer boot camp. So whether you are going into your internship, your first year as a school psychologist, guess what? We actually have completely free sessions for you. So during these 10 days, so Monday through Friday for these 2 weeks, we're going to have 10 sessions over 10 days that are absolutely free for anyone who is going into their internship or their first year as a school psychologist. You're going to have opportunities during these 2 weeks to have chats with a preschool psych and ask your questions about things to think about as a preschool psychologist, or ask questions to our high school psychologist. We're also going to have opportunities to talk about counseling. We're going to have opportunities to talk about supporting student behavior. We're also going to have opportunities to talk about bilingual assessments. We have 10 different topics that we want to share with you to have that opportunity for you to come on live and ask those questions. So registration is open right now. If you go to jennyponzurek.com, right up at the top, there's a pink button that says Summer Boot Camp. And if you click on that, you can find out all of the information and how to sign up for free. Now, if you are not, maybe you already just finished up your first year, we actually do have sessions for what I refer to as our newer school psychologists. I kind of think of you guys as like, you're finishing up, you're going into maybe your second year through about your 5th year. We've got a whole other set of 10 sessions for you guys. Variety of different topics for you guys to take a look at. And so you can see some of those topics right on over again on the website, jennyponzurek.com. Just click on the link that says Summer Boot Camp in the top right corner. And if you are a veteran school psychologist and you would really like some opportunities to have some deep dives onto some topics, we actually have 4 different topics, 4 deep dives. And you can check out the information about all of these different opportunities. And I will have to let you know, if you're going into your first year and you want to hang out and see one of the deep dives, we're going to let you take a look at any of the things that might be interesting to you. But to find out more information, and if you're interested in registering today, registration opened. And for everyone who registers during this first week, you actually get a special bonus where you get access to a 2-week video series all about optimizing your time. It also comes with 2 additional live calls to kind of talk through that information. So if that's something that you might be interested in, feel free to go over there and sign up. Just make sure you sign up within this first week so that you get access to all of that. All right. just going to check to see if there's anything in the chat here. If anyone does have any questions once you go over to the website and look at all the different information, feel free. Somewhere in that website, you can always find a space to ask me a question. Feel free to send on over your questions, and I'm happy to answer that as we are finalizing all of the schedules and getting everything ready about what time and what day everything is at. Somewhere in that website, you can always find a space to ask me a question. Feel free to send on over your questions. I don't see any questions right now. So again, if you guys have any questions, as you guys are looking through that information, feel free to reach out to me at any time. And I will talk with all of you later. I don't see any questions right now. So again, if you guys have any questions, as you guys are looking